What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us is the second of my two Damned Design knives. This is the Damned Designs Wraith, designed by Adrian de Souza. It is a stellar pocket knife. I've had this thing in my pocket a lot, actually, since I got back from Blade Show West, and there are even some snail trails on the titanium already, because I carry this thing a surprising amount. It is a user's knife. Now, don't get me wrong, it is absolutely beautiful, but what I mean by a user's knife is that it is singularly one of the most comfortable pocket knives I've ever had. This thing in hand is simply stellar. It is so good. It is all titanium. It is running on bearings. It is M390. It has a nice amount of jimping here for the thumb. The blade is a beautiful swedge after the jimping that follows down. It has a nice robust tip because of this sort of reverse tanto shape. It is actually, the way it's designed, is blade forward. And so when you're holding it, if you're leaning down, we'll do it this way, into materials, the blade gets there first. It is very, very well thought out. It has a hardened steel lock bar insert that is actually hidden. The screw comes in from the other side on the lock bar. So on this side, it is very much without interruption. It's a very clean design. It only has the 2 points of contact and a pin that hold in the backspacer. It has, as I said, it's a titanium pocket clip that is milled and very comfortable. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but it's got good distance between it and the knife, an excellent ramp and spring. But the party piece for this knife really is the comfort. Sure, it is very attractive, and I do think that. I really love the way this thing looks. It is a worker's shaped blade. In other words, this blade has done everything I've asked it to since the day I got it, and that includes everything from food prep to cutting open packages, as I always mentioned, to some rope cutting. It is, well, it's just very good. It's made by Tuya, and Tuya knives can do a spectacular job when they want to. And here, they clearly wanted to. So, what do you get? Well, let's take some measurements while we've got it here on the table. It is 1, 2, 3 and a little bit inches in overall cutting length, 3 1/8, almost 3 1/4 in overall cutting length. The blade itself is 3 1/2, depending on where you measure. If you measure back here to the bottom of the plunge grind, it's the same. It's marvelous thing in his designs is that the cutting surface, because of the way he does his scales, the cutting surface is actually longer than the initial point of the blade, which I think is just really cool. As I said, it's got this sort of curved shape to it, which at first glance was a little odd, but once I started working with it, it made perfect sense because the blade always touches down first, particularly for draw cuts. It is very good for push cuts because there is nothing that interferes with the cutting path. And if you do happen to slide up far enough that you're into the scale just moves the knife back into a position where the cutting path is just about perfect. The action is very good. Now, Adrian decided to go with relatively thin blade stock, which makes it very slicey at the edge. It also makes for a lighter blade. So a little bit of wiggle and it just drops closed and it snaps open. Ah, I love this thing. Do I love it more than the Yokai? Well, no. The Yokai, I think, is my favorite. But I do like this thing a lot. Hang on just a second while I go over here and grab my size comparison knives. I know you guys love that nonsense. So, where is it in the size and scale of... Whoops. Oh, sorry about that. The size and scale of things. Well, compared to the Rat Model 1, it is a much smaller knife, but it has equal cutting surface, which is very nice. It's just much smaller in the pocket. Compared to our old friend, the Rat Model 2, it is much, much bigger. But not really in length. It's just a better handful all the way around. Now, Tuya Knives has made a fairly big deal of the fact that they had to go back and redo their M390 to meet the appropriate HRC. These knives happened after that. So while I haven't seen one of these tested yet, I do know that this M390 comes from the batch after Tuya went back and retooled how they heat treat their M390, which leads me to believe this will, of course, test just fine. In the meantime, what you get is a beautiful blade, a very comfortable handle, excellent ergonomics. This is a full-on user work knife that happens to possess a ton of style. The titanium is milled, as you can see, these nice stripes. It's very smooth at the handle, but because of the way this is done, wherever your hand sort of grips onto this thing, it offers it a lot of purchase. Yeah, okay, I admit it. I'm a Damn Design fanboy. Why? Because Adrian came along and decided to do his own thing with his own style and did it in such a way that these knives just work. You go to places like Blade Show or knife shops, and there's a ton of knives where people tried to put their own spin on things, and what it did is it cost them functionality. Adrian didn't do that. He kind of went the other way. He said, well, how can I make a completely functional and yet interesting knife? And man, did he succeed. I do want to apologize. I know the lighting is a little glary. You know, guys, this is basically my dining room table with a cutting mat on it. And so lighting, good lighting would be nice. But since the channel is not self-supporting and everything that happens here is out of my pocket, including the knives, for the most part, that means that stuff like fancy lighting is just going to have to wait. I do apologize, but for now, I hope the channel can be about the knives, and if every once, sorry about that, if every once in a while there's a little glare, well, that's just the way it's going to be. So what do I think in the final analysis? I think that Adrian is on his way to being a very well-known down the road a ways knife designer. I think that Damn Designs, if they can continue to produce knives of this quality and this much style, is going to be, well, I think they're going to be very big. I think people are going to enjoy them quite a bit. I know that between this and the Yokai, which I will get out of its little knife case here, between this and the Yokai, I know that Adrian and Damn Designs has two very powerful winners in these two knives. If this isn't your style, and I know it's not everyone's style, it is my style, then maybe this is. You know? These are still in pre-order, but they're out there. If you are interested, feel free to go to damndesigns.com and take a look at his site. He's got a bunch of other interesting stuff on there from an EDC perspective. While I think, again, that this is my favorite of the two, I really do, the Yokai here, I think that the Wraith will probably appeal to a slightly wider audience because it is in many ways, a very straightforward pocket knife, but done exceptionally well. Anyway, this is the Damn Designs Wraith, and I think this is a stellar, spectacular... You know, I've been told that I say stellar too much, but I'm going to work on my descriptive terms. But in the meantime, this is a stellar pocket knife. It is very, very good. If you get a chance to get one of these in hand, I recommend it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been a Therapeutic Edge. You have, as always, been my awesome audience. Feel free to like the video on the way out. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. I'd love to have you here on a regular basis, and we'll see you next time.